Fears about terror in this country are now the primary concern of voters in this presidential election after the San Bernardino shooting was classified as terrorism by the FBI. So how would a Ted Cruz presidency be different from the one we're living under now on this question? Let's ask him. Joining us live from Iowa's 2016 presidential candidate, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. Senator, it's great to see you this morning. So what do you make...
Good morning. Good to be with you.
What do you make of the president and the New York Times and other organs that share that ideology pushing for gun control without explaining specifically how gun control would have prevented an attack like the one we just saw? What's the real agenda?
Well, it's an example of the partisan blindness from the left. In the face of an attack from radical Islamic terrorism, their response is to try to take away the right to keep and bear arms of law-abiding citizens. It's entirely backwards. What we need, number one, is a commander-in-chief who will be clear-eyed, who will be willing to acknowledge radical Islamic terrorism, and who will lead the effort to utterly defeat and destroy radical Islamic terrorism and ISIS, which I will do as president. And number two, we need a president who doesn't go after our constitutional rights, but protects our constitutional rights.
So, Senator, the question this morning is about ISIS here at home. And the number one concern among Americans in a new Quinnipiac poll this morning is that homegrown terrorism sits at the top of that list. How would a President Ted Cruz combat homegrown Islamic radicalism?
Well, we need to define the enemy. I mean, from the beginning, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have refused to acknowledge radical Islamic terrorism, and that has in turn poisoned every one of their efforts, because you can't target an enemy if you don't define it. You know, we know, for example, that the wife of one of the jihadists in San Bernardino came on a so-called fiancé visa. Well, the vetting that the administration did to her is the exact same vetting they are proposing to do for these Syrian Muslim refugees. And the vetting didn't catch obvious errors, like she had in her application a made-up address. But apparently they didn't catch that, and yet this president is telling us we can bring tens of thousands of refugees from Syria when we know ISIS wants to infiltrate those refugees and carry out acts of jihad here at home. It doesn't make any sense at all. Instead, we need a clear and single-focused effort to defeat radical Islamic terrorism and to go after, you know, let me give some examples of how the administration's failed to do that. The Boston bombing, the Tsarnaev brothers, we knew those brothers were radical Islamic terrorists. The FBI interviewed them, and then they dropped the ball. They failed to keep watching them. The elder Tsarnaev brother posted a call to jihad on YouTube. The Obama administration didn't even see it. We should have prevented that Boston bombing. The same was true in Fort Hood, where we knew that Nidal Hassan was communicating with Anwar al-Awlaki, a radical Islamic cleric. We knew that he'd asked al-Awlaki about the permissibility of waging jihad against his fellow soldiers. And yet again, the Obama administration did nothing. And it's this political correctness that prevents them from being serious about keeping the American people safe, and the world's too dangerous for that.
Senator, isn't it a lot to ask, though, of our military, our intelligence services, our law enforcement to keep us safe, when the first line of defense, wouldn't it be our border, keeping people who might hurt us from moving here in the first place?
Look, that is absolutely right, and border security is national security. It's why in my time in the Senate, I have led the fight to secure the border. If I'm elected president, we will secure the border. Existing federal law, for example, mandates 700 miles of double-layered fencing on the southern border. The Obama administration has only built 36. Existing federal law mandates a biometric exit-entry system on visas. The Obama administration refuses to comply with the law. If I'm elected president, we will build a wall that works. We will triple the Border Patrol. We will increase fourfold the fixed-wing and rotary-wing aircraft. We'll put in place strong E-Verify. We'll end catch and release. We'll deport criminal illegal aliens. All of that existing law provides for. What's missing is the political will, and we need a commander-in-chief who will put as his first priority keeping this country safe.
Senator Cruz, speaking of that political will, what would you do to make Americans feel safe? Because right now, they do not feel safe. The FBI comes out yesterday. They say that they are investigating this as an act of terror, and we don't hear from the president until this morning, and he's still saying possibly connected to a terrorist group.
Well, look, this is a president who tragically acts as an apologist for radical Islamic terrorists. He gives explanations and justifications. His Secretary of State, John Kerry, said the Charlie Hebdo terrorist attack in Paris was understandable, that you could understand the rationale. We shouldn't be giving excuses. We need to be single-eyed in defeating radical Islamic terrorism. And, you know, unfortunately, it's even worse than that. Not only does this administration not acknowledge, much less effectively fight radical Islamic terrorism, but their immediate reaction in the face of a terror attack is to go after the constitutional rights to keep and bear arms of law-abiding citizens. You know, I'm in Iowa today. Yesterday, we held a rally for the Second Amendment. We had launched our national Second Amendment coalition, over 24,000 people nationwide. And I got to say, a lot of folks in the mainstream media, a lot of Democrats were saying, how insensitive to talk about the Second Amendment at a time like this. Let me tell you, I'm not interested in being sensitive to Islamic terrorists. And you don't stop the bad guys by taking away our guns. You stop the bad guys by using our guns.
Yeah, how dare you cite the Constitution, Senator? That's appalling. Thanks for joining us this morning. It's good to see you. Good luck in Iowa.
Thanks, Senator.
It's great to be with you. Thank you.